Okay, so you've gotten logged in. You went to webhsolutions.com. You hit on contact. You hit the student login. You got logged in. Here you are. You clicked on your class, and then notice that your class link is up at the top. Let's see. I can enable live transcription, and I have no issue with that. Just know that I actually like it. For some reason, it has annoyed people in the past. So if it really bothers you, let me know. But it is actually now at the bottom. So at the top, you've got your join class meeting. You've got your evaluate class. Hopefully you use those to actually get into the class this morning. Obviously, you've got instructor material. You're going to have my email address, which is just michael.forrester@webhsolutions.com. Greg is right here, and you can email him. This is how you access your ebook, which we're going to talk about in just a second. And then we just talked about how to access your labs through webh.quicklabs.com. Again, amazon.quicklabs.com is the public side that's reserved for you. If you need to get into those, there are basically instructions for accessing your practice exams down here at the bottom. That's this link right here. When you click on these, by the way, it'll usually open up a Word doc or an Excel doc or something that will have the instructions. It won't actually take you to another web page. So this student portal is pretty much the central place in which we will centralize most of the links that you will have access to. Do note that I actually do the recordings a little differently from WebAge, and that I'm going to do a recording per module. So be aware that I'm going to post a playlist link that's completely unlisted at the end of the 4 days, and it's going to have a module by module breakdown of all the recordings in it. I usually ask them to post this up here, but I'm going to share it with you before you leave, so you have access to it. You can just set it aside, save it for yourself, and then you can rewatch any of the recordings on any of the sections that we go over the next 4 days. Okay, so that's a little bit different than what's listed here. Okay. In addition, there is a Basecamp portal, which is mainly used for messaging. There's a certification study plan. There is a video on how to prep for certifications as a general thing. We're going to go over all of this when we cover certifications later today. So I'm going to go back through this at some point in time with a particular eye to letting you know how to approach the certification. Okay. As part of this class, you're really going to get 4 things. You're going to get a free practice exam voucher that's going to let you take the specialty exam, which is like a 3-hour exam. It's got 75 questions. You know, by the way, when I say numbers like that, we're probably going to need to go verify them, especially since I've got a little bit of a cold. So you're going to get a practice exam. You're going to get a study guide on how to study for the exam. But I want to be clear about the study guide. I'm going to give you a study guide to prepare you for the certification and the role. And then I'm going to give you a study guide that's much bigger that will allow you to deep dive into, say, like computer vision or reinforcement learning or something along those lines. So you're going to get 2 study guides from me. One that's really big, that's just going to help you as a resource, and one that's very focused on passing the certification. So you're going to get an exam voucher for the test. You're going to get a study guide. You're then going to get access to the practice exam. So you're going to get a list of sets of exam questions. There's 2 of them, 2 sets that you can use to practice taking the exam. Because I got to tell you, with a 3-hour exam that you can't get up, where you've got about 2 minutes to peruse the question, digest it, and come up with an answer, you got to train for that. It's a little bit like, to borrow the sports analogy, it's like walking into a boxing ring. You're not just going to walk in there and start guarding and throwing punches or whatever, or golf, or cheerleading, or I don't care what it is, flower arranging. Like, you're not just going to walk in there to do it. Let's practice it first, right? So you're going to get access to practice exams. So an exam voucher to take the test, a certification study guide, practice exams, which I also call study exam practice exams because they're really good. And then last but not least is the supplemental labs, which Matt was asking me about. So I'm also going to make sure that you have a list of machine learning labs that you can actually do inside your own AWS account. They will cost you somewhere between 10 to 50 cents every time you run them, as long as you don't leave them up and running. So I'm going to give you a list of free published labs by AWS that will allow you to practice with SageMaker and do other things, but you will have to have your own private AWS account. I'm going to say this later when we talk about this, but I'm going to say it now just so I'm very clear. Please do not create an AWS account using your bh.com email. Has anyone who can hear my voice, have you ever done that, by the way? Has anyone here ever created a bah.com AWS account on the public side of things?
Yes, unfortunately.
John, would you care to share your experience just briefly of what happened?
You get a very, very stern email warning you that you're using Booz Allen resources, not in conjunction with Booz Allen cloud policies. Please immediately delete everything, unlock everything, and use a private email in future.
Perfect. That was better said than I would have said it. Yeah. So again, and then like they email your manager, and again, it's nothing really bad happens, but it is, to Jonathan's point, it is sternly worded, and they're kind of like, basically, don't do that again, or there'll be consequences. So just don't do it. So do not use your bh.com email address if you create an AWS account. Now, don't get me wrong, with Qwiklabs and all the rest, you can use your bh.com email address all day long. Doesn't matter. But when you create an AWS account, not an Amazon account, an AWS account, please use your personal email address. And if you need assistance with that, let me know. I'll be glad to walk you through the process. It will require an email address, a phone number, and a credit card. Okay. All right. So let me recap. We're going to talk about the exam voucher. We're going to talk about the certification study guide. We're going to talk about your practice exams. We're going to talk about not only your supplemental labs, but also the free ML labs I'm going to give you that you're going to do after class. Okay. Any questions about how to use the portal, the relative kind of broad strokes of the information that's here? Wow. Okay, good. I've either done a fabulous job or I've done a horrible job. There's no middle road. Okay. All right. So, I probably should talk about this. So in here also is that if you should have gotten an email, and I'm going to put this in the chat, from a company, from a domain that's like gilmore.ca. And it basically says you have access to, I think it's called bookshelf.vitalsource.com or bookshelf.gilmoreglobal.com. What this is Amazon's online portal to give you access to the student guides. Now you might say, Michael, what student guide? Because you've talked about a certification study guide, talked about practice exams. What are you talking about? So these slides that I'm going through right now, I'm actually not allowed to share with you, unfortunately, because otherwise I'd just be giving you all PowerPoints and you'd have fun with them, right? But what happens is that your student manuals for this class, including the speaker notes, right? They are all come from gilmore.ca, and you either can run them in the browser or you can download the VitalSource like Bookshelf app if you want to and run it locally. This is an online version of your manual. This is what it looks like. Let's go in here. It looks like a buffet, but it's a trap, by the way. There's way too much information in here. Oh, so actually, I'm going to come back to that because this is always exciting. Where is machine learning pipeline? Down here, it is. So obviously it's in a bunch of languages. Here's the instructor guide, but here's the student guide. So this is what you all are going to see. So don't be overwhelmed. You're not going to see 15 million groups. When you get the email, it's going to have a license code in here. You're going to redeem the license code on that website. In the upper right-hand corner, I think it says redeem or submit or something along those lines. And that will allow you to then get access to this. Oh, that was Japanese, so that's not really what I wanted. But it's going to give you access to the student guide, right, for this entire class. Now, even though it's in Japanese, maybe we should switch that. Hold on. That's weird. I didn't see that noted there. Let's go back. One feature that's missing from this fabulous website is the ability to filter by language. So hold on. All right, there's the lab guide. This is English, first one. All right, so you get a license code, you redeem it, you now have that show up as an option inside of your like bookshelf.vitalsource.com portal. And then what will happen is that then you get access to this fabulous student guide. And the student guide, again, is going to include all the slides and some of the speaker notes that I'm going to talk about today. So for example, if we were to look at module 0, everything that I've covered here is pretty much listed. And by the way, you can actually fit to height or fit to width. Here's what it will look like on a height basis, a little bit of an eye chart for you all. But everything that I'm talking about is actually covered in here. Okay. So just kind of preempting that. Let's see. Should we already have an account on Gilmore, or do we need to make one? I believe that you need to make one, but hold on, let's take a look. Let's see, accessing your ebook. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, so ebooks will be sent to you by Gilmore Global 2 days prior. The machine learning pipelines, you will receive a license code via email. You have to set up an account and password if you do not already have one. So yeah, so you'll have to create one. Again, and Dakota, for that one, you can just use your bh.com email address. I gotta tell you though, I know this sounds weird. I probably just use your personal email, to be frank about it. Just use your personal email, just to avoid spam and any other complications with any of the corporate filters or anything like that. Let's see. Wyatt, I believe that we are using version 1.1.9. So that's the latest template that actually just got released like a day or two ago. I believe we're using version 1.1.9, so I would use that one if possible. If I'll verify this in a second, but I believe that it's 1.1.9 because it was literally just released on Saturday. So, and I just downloaded all the fresh slides, so that's where we should all be. Okay. So that's how to get access to your student guide, how to get access to your student labs. So webh.quicklabs.com, bookshelf.vitalsource.com, right up here. You should have emails for both. One will contain a license code that's to redeem against your student guide. And of course, you just need to either do a forget password or guest WASadmin for your student labs. Okay. Any questions about access to the student labs under webh.quicklabs.com or the student guide underneath vitalsource.book or bookshelf.vitalsource.com? Okay, so just to say this, the difference between 1.1.8 and 1.1.9 is minor corrections. If you have 1.1.8, I would probably run 1.1.8. Just stick with that for a second, right? So don't freak out. Sometimes these transitions get a little weird, so just stick with 1.1.8. You're fine. And actually, I think I purposely opened the 1.1.8 PowerPoint just to make sure. So I'm kind of like still reconciling the changes, but it looked like they were all just spelling corrections. And things like, instead of like rest during the break, it was like relax during the break. It was like weird changes like that. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see if there's deeper changes. You'll be the guinea pigs for the 1.1.8 to 1.1.9 transition. Isn't that fun? Okay. Any logistical questions at all before we go forward into the course? All right, as I promised,